Today, we're going to hear from 4 dental website experts on this critical topic, and I'm pleased to introduce you to them now. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up our first speaker, Dr. David Hall.
Okay. Good to see you all. I want to start with a little background on me. I'm an accredited member of the Academy. I joined in 1986 at the second annual meeting in Toronto. And it's getting fewer and fewer the number of people that we see that were there at that meeting. And the way I I was practicing, became accredited in 1990. I started a website for my own practice in the early days of the internet, 1995, before Google, before Amazon. Before the AECD, I remember bugging them, when is the AECD going to get a website? Get on board. And anyway, and then in the late 90s, I started getting questions from other dentists asking for help with their websites, and one thing led to another, and I started this company, Infinity Dental Web, and that's what I do full-time now. I'm in Arizona. We have a team of, I've been lucky to assemble a team of marketing and technical experts. Anyway, I'm going to take a rather narrow subject matter here, how to market expensive dentistry on the internet, that I think is particularly interesting to most members of the AECD. That's usually the niche that you're in. Now, I understand that, can you sell a smile makeover with just your website? That's a good acid test of how good your website is. Will they call you saying, hey, I saw your website, I want a smile makeover, when can you see me? I don't care how much it costs. Now, I realize that job one in internet marketing is being found. I don't want to, by focusing on this narrow area, I don't want to downplay the importance of search engine optimization and getting rankings for your website. You have to have that. And we have some expertise. If you're interested in what we do, I've got some articles in dental economics on that subject, and we have some awards for our performance in search engine optimization, as well as testimonials from our clients. But this is the statement I wanted to share with you. The problem with your marketing is that you think it's all about logic. It's not. It's not even primarily about logic. While logic has an important role, whether they like you or not is an emotional thing. And until you understand that, you're not going to be as successful as you could be. I'm not saying that logic doesn't work. Logic does work. But emotion is much more powerful in marketing. How are human decisions made? There's been a lot of research recently into this. And there was an interesting study that was published in the Journal of Applied Psychology a few years ago. They had a grocery store display selling wines, selling both German wines and French wines, and they thought they'd run a little experiment. On alternate days for a couple of weeks, they would play French music, and then they would play German music. And in the days that they played the French music, the French wines outsold the German wines by 3-1. When they played the German music, the German wines outsold the French wines by 3-1. But the most interesting aspect of the study was when they talked to the participants, and by a margin of 7-1, the shoppers denied that the music had anything to do with their decisions. What's our takeaway here? We don't even know what motivates us. A lot of it's subconscious. It's emotional. You know, as humans, we don't like to admit that. We like to think that we're totally rational beings. But that's not the experience of marketers. And this, from these understandings and our ability to actually wire the brain and monitor brain activity, has been born the field of neuromarketing, which we have particular expertise in that in our company. This field of neuromarketing was born from the discovery using brain scans that purchasing decisions are made subconsciously before the customer is even aware that they have made a decision. So if we get clients saying, well, I ask my patients and they like this website. That's not they don't know what's motivating them. So good market research is not asking, well, why do you like this product or why do you like that product? No, good marketing is seeing what they do. Because the bottom line for most of these studies is that people don't even know for sure what motivates them. Some people are aware, but most people aren't. So there's this interesting study by the Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, which is the primary marketing association, professional association in Great Britain. Most large marketers in Great Britain belong to this. And so they did a study of 1,400 case studies, and they discovered that while rational approaches in marketing were effective 16% of the time in bringing very large profit gains, emotional approaches were twice as effective. And then referring to this marketing expert, and there are a number that I could have quoted, but I just chose this one because I liked the way he put it. He wrote this book, Brainfluence, that is fairly well known among marketing circles. And he basically made the statement that if you ask anybody who's seriously into advertising and knows what they're doing, they're going to tell you. Emotionally, the ads that engage us emotionally work better than those that don't. He says this is not a big shock to anyone who's spent time in advertising. They all know this. And if you watch the TV, you'll see that the big spenders there, Progressive, Geico, Lexus, Coca-Cola, their appeals are emotional. They must know something. And if you don't know that yet, get on board and get your marketing to be more effective. So how do you market then? Knowing that, what are the emotions that go into marketing basic dentistry on the internet? The primary underlying principle is brought out, I think, most effectively by this one consultant that I'm very big fan of. She's been around for a long time, Suzanne Boswell. The reason I like her, she bases her data on actual interviews and actual experience rather than anecdotal information and theorizing. And in her interviews with a number of dentists and patients, she asked the doctors, when you're doing a treatment plan presentation and the patient accepts it, do you think they accept it based on your explanation that was effective in helping them understand why they needed this? Or do you think they just trusted you? And the dentist said, oh, by a significant margin. No, they understand. They understood what I told them. But they asked the patients, and by a 7-to-1 margin, they're saying, I didn't understand, really, what's going on in my market. I just trusted my dentist. So you've got to engage that trust. And a lot of marketers online miss that. The way I learned this was early in my practice. I started my practice from scratch, right out of dental school. Solo practitioner, a little risky. I was a little nervous. When I had somebody that needed a few crowns, I was I tried to be very careful and just rationally present what they needed and why they needed it. And I had pretty good treatment plan acceptance rate. I had some people that turned it down. And then later in my practice, it just dawned on me, gosh, I have a treatment plan acceptance rate of almost 100%. What's going on? I haven't changed anything in my presentation. And then it dawned on me, there had to be something in my body language, my tone of voice, that early on revealed that I was kind of needy, and I was really hoping that they would schedule this large treatment, where later in my practice I was thinking, gosh, I'm so busy. Just looking at your treatment plan makes me tired. But, quite honestly, you really need this, and they just very rarely turned it down. So there are things that people pick up subconsciously from you that will help them know whether or not they can trust you. You need to learn this when you're doing your website. Trust is important in medicine, but is even more important in dentistry. In medicine, they usually know something's wrong. In dentistry, there are often no symptoms. They've heard stories, cavities that weren't there, full mouth reconstructions that didn't need to be done. If you're in a social setting, I invite you to try this experiment. Just bring up this idea of overtreatment and see if you get people, yeah, I had a friend that went into this dentist and said that they had needed 3 crowns and had 12 other cavities, blah, 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 and they were just really skeptical, and so they went for a second opinion to the dental school, and they told them that was a bunch of baloney. You will hear stories like this that are floating around, and that scares people. So you have to not look too needy. So we had this client that wanted to put a little box on his website, and he was getting this feeling of eagerness that we often get. I get people looking at my website and they're leaving and they're not making an appointment. I want to get their email address so I can follow up. So we wanted to put a box on his website asking for an email address, and here it is, sign up. And we said, well, let's not make it too obvious, but we're a little leery about this. If you wouldn't mind, we'd like to have you be a study subject for us, and we'd like to do a little research project. Let's put this box on and take it off in alternating months. And let's see how it affects your phone calls. Oh, okay. After the better part of a year, we discovered that when the box asking for an email address was on the website, the phone calls decreased by about 30%. So the bounce rate didn't increase. People were not annoyed by this box, but it sent a subconscious signal that, hey, this dentist really wants me to make an appointment. I'm not sure if he's interested in me or more interested in the money. Maybe he's more interested in the money. This is going on again subconsciously in most people. So we see a lot of websites that look like this. Look at that middle statement, schedule an appointment today, exclamation point. Why today? Why exclamation point? This is a reflection of the dentist's nervousness and eagerness to land this patient, and it's sending a subconscious signal to your patients that you're one of these guys that's maybe kind of eager to get that appointment and not so sure they can trust you. Now, when you're selling cheap dentistry, this is less important to people. They're looking for a bargain, and they're willing to overlook stuff like this. But if you're selling expensive dentistry, quality dentistry, this could kill your marketing. So let's transition to how do you market expensive dentistry on the internet then. Sesame Communications did a landmark, what I consider a landmark study back in 2009. What they did was they recruited a number of people who were actually looking for a dentist. And they had them agree, they paid the money and had them agree to be subjects in this study. And they said, okay, we're going to hook up a connection to your computer. We're going to monitor so we can see on our screen exactly what you're seeing. And then we want you to be on the phone, and we want you to think out loud as you go through and you look for a dentist. And then we're going to listen, and we're going to draw conclusions from the things you say. So they did this for people seeking for general dentistry, and then they did a separate study of people seeking cosmetic dentistry. They came up with some very valuable conclusions. And the statement they made in the white paper about cosmetic dentistry, perhaps the most surprising result of the study, is how different cosmetic dentistry shoppers are from general dentistry shoppers. And here are the differences they found. Patients seeking a cosmetic dentist were much more sensitive to cues that the practice was eager for new patients. Knowing what I've just taught you about the effect of eagerness, this seems a no-brainer. They want to know that they can trust you, and it's especially important if you're going to do a smile makeover, or anything else expensive. They're going to be turned off by eagerness. So they had this one statement when the participant ran into this pop-up. The participant, in thinking out loud, said, pop-ups are kind of like, hey, don't leave, give me your money. So is that the signal you want to send to your prospective patients? Probably not. The participants, the ones seeking cosmetic dentistry, were more interested in the qualifications and reputation of the dentist. That seems logical. It's borne out by the studies. They're looking for helpful, substantial information about the procedure they were contemplating. Now, a lot of people misunderstand, a lot of marketers misunderstand, and they have these pages on the website dedicated to explaining the procedures, and they're under the illusion that the patient is looking to be educated about this procedure. Well, they want to know what an implant is. No, they've done research and they know what an implant is. And they don't need you telling them again. What we've learned from our interviews with these patients that sign up, they're looking for signs that you know what you're doing. And that's what the purpose of this substantial information about the procedure that they're contemplating. If you don't have that, they're going to be a little more skeptical that you know enough about this procedure that they can trust you. And they're looking for a smile gallery. They're looking for cosmetic dentistry. It's gotten so this is a do or die item on your website. You have to have a smile gallery. And I'm going to talk about the ingredients of a quality smile gallery. One thing that they discovered was that in their eagerness to display a lot of cases, some dentists would put up some that were maybe not so good. Those were killers for conversion. They would see the one bad case and they're off to somebody else's website. So better to have 3 good cases that are all great than stick that, have 6 and have 1 be maybe kind of mediocre. Our conclusions from our own research in-house ratifies all the conclusions of the Sesame study. This is why I like their study, because it's borne out with experience. And we have some other details that we've learned about these people. They spend more time looking at the website when they're looking for higher ticket procedures and smile makeovers. They look at more websites, an average maybe 4 to 7, as opposed to 1 to 3 websites for somebody looking for basic general dentistry. They're more likely to check reviews. And this can vary depending on how you define a dentist that's marketing quality or expensive services. One number is this. However we choose to divide this, it's always more. They're checking more reviews. And this is helpful for you to know too. There's a lot of data out there about how many people are using online reviews. We've done our own in-house research as it applies to dentistry. So as it applies to dentistry, about 60% of your prospective patients, after they see your website, are going to check reviews before they ask for an appointment. Very important. So they're willing to travel farther. The average practice attracts patients from a 5 to 7 mile radius. As we have surveyed our high-end cosmetic dentistry clients, they average twice that. And some very high-end practices will average over 50 miles per patient traveling to find the dentist. These are accredited fellows and nationally famous people. And their search is geographically broader. We did a little research for a prospective client in Manhattan who wanted to market both general dentistry and cosmetic dentistry, and we discovered that people in Manhattan searching for a cosmetic dentist would by far most often search for Manhattan cosmetic dentist. If they were looking for general dentistry, they would most often search by neighborhood. Midtown dentist. So this is important for your marketing strategy. Within the first couple of seconds, your website needs to brand you as a quality-oriented dentist. If you muff that first impression, we have learned that it's very difficult to recover. It's not that you can't, but there are some people that you will never get, and you have a big hurdle to convince them after they've had an initial poor impression. It's just like anything, you know, a job interview, you know. The first impression is critical, and the first impression is your website. You need quality images on your website. You need ample space. One concept here that's important in marketing is that crowded spaces are associated with cheap. Spacious is associated with expensive. If you're trying to crowd a lot of information onto your pages, to your home page particularly, it's going to make it look more cheap. If there's extra space, white space, it looks more expensive. For the importance of website design, I'd like to go to the study by this Dr. Brian Wansink, who's a professor of consumer behavior at Cornell University. And what he did is he got a bunch of people and he served them a dinner. This setting is fine china, glassware, silverware, candles, flowers on the table, and he served them a meal of panko-encrusted Mediterranean sea bass and asked them to rate this menu for taste on a scale of 1 to 10. They rated it a 8.0 on a 1 to 10 scale. Okay? Then he took the exact same meal and served it on paper plates, paper napkins, plastic tableware, paper cups, on a plain table, and he called it fish, scalloped potatoes, and green beans. But it's exactly the same thing. Now, if our minds were totally logical, it would get the same rating because it's going to taste the same, right? Rated at a 3.4 on the same 1 to 10 scale. So the framing, the style, the first impression makes a big difference in how you're coming across. Bottom line for us, don't serve up expensive dentistry on a paper plate website. It won't sell. But, and that's a relative thing. There are some people that are very logical, and they're going to overlook all that stuff. But not most people. Not most people. It's simply not going to be as effective. So, bottom line, to appeal to patients seeking quality or high-ticket services, within the first couple of seconds, your website needs to brand you as a quality-oriented dentist. You need a strong professional tone. You have to act trustworthy. You can't act like, oh, I really need you to make an appointment. Don't leave the website till you leave me your email address. The tone you want is to be welcoming and not eager. You don't want to act off-putting. You want to let them know that you like them, that you want them to come to you. But you have to convey in that a tone that you don't need them. You mostly just want them to get quality care, and you know that you can deliver that. But if they go to another dentist that can give them equal quality care, then you're okay with that. That's the professional tone that you have. You want to show legitimate credentials. Let me back up to this, too, being welcoming, not eager. A question that you're seeing more of these chat boxes on websites. They pop up and asks you, and you want to chat with them. You need to be a little careful with that. We've done some studies on that and evaluated different companies. They can be effective, but you should know by now what message you need to convey with that chat box. It can't be, I'm eager for you to make an appointment. The message, the feeling that your chat box needs to convey is, I want to be helpful. Is there anything I can help you with? But you don't want to appear like a high-pressure salesman. So, legitimate credentials, that's important. They're going to be looking at that. Don't fudge it, any postgraduate training programs, accreditations or fellowships, awards and honors, testimonials. If you don't have anything else, just great testimonials from patients can be your credential. And then have quality, custom-written information about the procedures that they are contemplating And your object here, again, is not to educate them, it's to impress them, just to put it rather crassly. Impress them with your expertise. So, in additional points, if you're marketing smile makeovers, the first impression of the website needs to convey the feeling this dentist can make me beautiful, because people associate beautiful with expensive. And you need a smile gallery. Full face photographs are strongly preferred, with enough detail to allow close examination of the case. The reason? Because you're selling just the teeth is the logical approach. Yeah, okay, yeah, you've got beautiful color, the contours are good, the luster is good and everything, but you want to engage them emotionally, and the most effective way to do that is with a full face photograph. Here's an example from a smile gallery that does bring in smile makeover patients. You'll notice we have a full face before and after. We're engaged emotionally. I kind of like her. And then Dr. Arnold gives a story about this, which basically communicates, I don't just treat teeth, I treat people. And I'm a warm and caring dentist. And I know my patients. And this is her story. So here's an example of a client who came to us, and with this website, we can see right away the today exclamation point, oh, good grief. And she says, I get people calling wanting basic family dentistry, but I offer high-end dentistry. You know, what can you do for me? So we gave her this redesign, and it didn't take her long before she gave us this statement. Instead of having new patients who are mainly searching for a family dentist, we have patients coming specifically asking for veneers, dental implants, and TMJ's treatment. So you can sell smile makeovers with your website alone. We've seen it done in markets across the country. So, thank you. And we'll take, again, there'll be questions after we've all given our presentation.